Hi friends, welcome back to another video. If this is your first time here, my name's Maddie. I'm a mum of one in Australia. And here on my channel, I show you all of my bulk grocery shopping and also every week what I cook each week. And I'm on a budget. Like most families in Australia and around the world, the cost of living is just crazy. So I like to show you what I do, how I tackle cooking almost every night for my family on a budget. I try and cook healthy, add as many vegetables where I can. Doesn't always happen, but that's okay. This first night here, I'm cooking a lamb roast. We have lamb in the freezer from my partner's father. It's his lamb that he gifted us when our daughter was born. So I'm just chopping up vegetables here that I had in the fridge. My partner finished cooking the lamb and that's what it looked like. Now moving on here, I am making a slow cooker beef ragu. So I'm just defrosting the crushed tomatoes that I made myself when the local fruit and veg shop had Roma tomatoes on a really good deal. So to make my crushed tomatoes, all I did was chop them up, pop them in the pan in a big pot with a little bit of water to start with and some salt and pepper, and then let that cook down before portioning it up in some Ziploc bags and freezing it. So just chopping up the vegetables here, I just have your typical pasta bolognese veggies, so some carrot. I also chop up some onion, some garlic, and also some celery since it's a slow cooker meal. What I love about cooking this recipe and all slow cooker meals is just being able to put it on in the morning or prep it in the morning or the night before when I do have time, and then letting it do its thing during the day, which is so helpful when I'm busy. Although we're coming into summer here in Australia, I want to keep cooking slow cooker meals and just see what I can make that still suits like a warm night. So less kind of soups and stews and more like my typical what I would cook, but slow cooker versions. So like curries and pastas and whatnot. So here I am just frying off the meat. This is the blade steak that I got from Woolworths, so one of the cheaper cuts. I buy this like once a month because I really like how much I get in each of these packets, and it turns out really nice in the slow cooker. So I'm just browning it off each piece at a time before transferring it to the slow cooker. I am on a budget here, so I like to really plan out my meals so I'm spending the least amount of money possible, with a monthly woolly shop with, weekly or fortnightly top-up shops where needed, and 2 fruit and veg shops throughout the month. I really like using this blade steak, not only because it's cheaper, but also because I can, 1, freeze it like most of my meat, but 2, I can use it in the slow cooker. And slow cooker meals typically don't require too many fresh ingredients, which is helpful for near the end of the month. So we're in week 3 here, and all of these ingredients, other than the carrots and the celery, is what I had bought at the start of the month. And even then, carrots and celery can last throughout the month. I like to freeze my celery because I'm rarely using it fresh. Jimmy likes to eat it fresh, but that's it. Usually it's in soups or stews or slow cooker meals, so I can pull it out of the freezer and use as much as I need when I need it. And like each week, I will link the recipes that I used in the description below if you would like to have a look and cook them yourself if they take your fancy. And if you are new here, and if this is the first time you're watching one of my videos, what I record and share on this channel is all of my grocery shopping, which is the monthly woolly shop and fortnightly fruit and veg shops. I also show you what I cook each week, every week. So I upload a video every week, just like this, where I show you what I get up to in my kitchen and I talk you through what I've done, and I also just have a chit chat with you. They are longer videos because I like slower paced videos. I like watching videos like this and having them on in the background while I'm cooking or doing other tasks, or even if I'm just nursing my daughter to keep me company. So I hope you enjoy this content. If you do, please subscribe so you can see when I post new videos, and give this video a like. It really, really means the world. I'm new here. This is my 4th video, I think. Yeah, my 4th video. And all of your engagement really, really matters and means a lot to me. And I like to read all of your comments, and I'll reply to all of the comments too that are left on my videos. So thank you so much for being here. And this is what the beef ragu looked like at the end of the night once the pasta was cooked. So it's 3:30, and tonight, I'm just doing all the prep for dinner tonight. Tonight I'm making a baked ratatouille with beans out of my favourite cookbook. I'll show you. Recipe Tin Eats Dinner. And I'll show you what it looks like. I can't share the exact recipe because she has only published it in her book. I love this book. I've made almost every meal in it. So this will do you so many favors, this book. So many easy dinner ideas, super simple, and all of them are really satisfying and yummy. They're all dinners that my partner and I would eat and have eaten, and this one I've made about 4 times. So that's what I'm going to make tonight. So I've chopped up the eggplant and put salt on it to sweat it like I did in a previous recipe last week. I've chopped up my zucchini, my capsicum, my onions. I don't have garlic, so I'm going to use garlic powder again. So I'm going to wait to put this all together. What I've also done is that kilo of cherry tomatoes I got from the fruit and veg shop, I've cooked them down today because I didn't have any other plan to use them. So I've cooked them down into a really nice crushed tomatoes. So this is going to be my crushed tomatoes that I put in it. So everything's prepped, ready to put together. I'm just waiting for the eggplant to sweat, so I'm going to leave that until I finish my bread. I'm going to make, it's called the world's easiest yeast bread, and it's so easy. You don't need to knead it, and it only has one rise of 2 hours. You cook it in a Dutch oven. We've just got a cheap Dutch oven that you buy from the camping store. So you heat that up in the oven and pop it in there, and it turns out like a crispy sourdough. It's my first time though making it without bread flour. I'm going to use plain flour and wholemeal flour because that's what I've got left. But I do have this Wallabies Baker's Bread Improver, so I'm going to give this a go. It says to put 1 part improver to 100 parts flour. So let's get started on this. I'm going to remove the masks. So what you need is 3 cups of, it says bread or plain flour. So hopefully this turns out okay. I'm going to do the measurement of it using the scales just so I know exactly how much bread improver to put in. I'm going to get the yeast and water going first. So I need 1.5 cups, 375 ml of very warm water. I'm going to actually, should I weigh it? Yes, I'm going to weigh it as well. And we also need 2 teaspoons of yeast. leave that to foam and put my yeast back in the fridge. Now I need 450 grams of flour. So I had 210 grams of plain white flour left, and I'll use the rest wholemeal. There's 450. Now, if I need 1 part bread improver to 100 parts flour, it's 450, that means I need 4.5 grams, I think. I'm going to stick with that. That should be right. We'll soon find out if it's not, I suppose. So 4.5 grams. So hopefully this bread improver, my thinking is it's going to, let's read it. My thinking is it's going to act like bread flour, so it might have some protein in it, but it doesn't have protein in it. Okay, it says to use with bread flour for best outcome, but it says designed to complement the traditional baking bread making process. It will improve the kneading and fermentation of dough and provide excellent volume, texture and colour, whilst also extending freshness. The improver can be used with all bread types, including wholemeal and grain breads. Let's see, it only uses the smallest bit. There's 125 grams in here and I just used 5. Well, 4.5, but I can't measure half a gram on there, so I just used 5 grams. I'll let you know, we'll find out if this bread comes out like it typically does with bread flour, because I've made my sandwich bread with normal flour instead of bread flour, and it hasn't turned out as good at all. It's quite dense, so hopefully this works, and then yeah, a few bucks at Woolies. And bread flour is quite expensive, so if I can use normal flour and this helps with the bread making process, then fabulous. Okay, so I'm going to mix this with the salt. So I need 2 teaspoons of salt, almost 2. I never worry about getting my salt measurement exact when I make bread, and it doesn't affect it. So that's about 2 teaspoons of salt. I'll link the recipe below, but it's this simple. So I'm going to mix this now, and the whole point of this dough is it's not going to be kneadable. It's going to be wet. It's not going to be your typical flat bread dough. So yeah, if I was going to try and knead this, it would stick to my hands. So it's as simple as that. Now we leave it for 2 hours or until doubled. I'm going to leave it for 2 hours because we're going to take Jimmy for a walk down at the beach. So we're going to leave it for 2 hours, be back, and then preheat I'll be back in 2 hours. I'm gonna leave it for 2.5 hours, but it shouldn't hurt, because then the next step is preheat the oven really high with the Dutch oven in. Pop it in the Dutch oven in some put baking paper down in the Dutch oven, pop the dough in, and that's it. You let it cook, you take the lid off for 10 minutes, and then you've got really nice, crispy, sourdough-like bread. Perfect for stews. I do this whenever we make a stew, and it's going to be perfect for this ratatouille. Is that how you pronounce it? Kind of sounds like the movie with the little mice. So that's it. Simple as that. I'm going to pop this in a warm spot and come back to it in 2 hours. Every time I've made this, it's fit in this bowl. For some reason it's looking like it's not going to, but it does all cook down when you bake it. And like I said, it's only 3:30, so I'm doing this now because my daughter's napping. So it's a great dinner. You can prep ahead, pop it in the fridge with some Glad wrap, and then all you need to do is pop it in the oven. It's a 1-dish dinner. Oh my gosh, what is me with ring pulls? This is the second tin this month, and it never has happened to me that the ring pulls come off. It's the same brand too. It's this macro brand from Woolies. I don't know whether they've like done something and their ring pulls aren't. Let's see this one. Oh, it almost came off as well, but let's see if I can open it. Okay. Oh gosh, I really... Oh, if you watched my last video, I was saying how I had to buy another can of cannelloni beans because I had bought 2 at the start of the month for this recipe. I also bought 2 cans of black beans for the burritos I made. I made a whole heap of freezer pulled pork burritos and pulled chicken burritos that I've put in the freezer for dinners. If you want to see how I did that, check out my last video. But I was saying how I bought 2 cans of black beans for the burritos, but the ring pull went on it and I could not for the life of me with this can opener open the can. So I decided to chuck it so I didn't, fiddle around and cut myself, because I've done that in the past. So I thought it's not worth it. It's $1 worth of beans in the bin. I hate doing that, but I had to do it. So I used a can of my cannelloni beans for the burritos, so that left me with only 1 can left. So I've gone and bought another can because of what happened with the beans, the black beans. Oh my gosh. And I'm doing this correctly. Or maybe I don't know how to use a can opener. See, it starts off okay. Oh, here we go. God, please. Yes, it's working. So, yeah, I'm not gonna blame the black bean can. That was my fault. I obviously didn't use the can opener. Thank gosh, crisis averted. Okay. It's canned beans. I like to give them a rinse. There is, oh my gosh, I know this isn't ours. There is a huge black hair, wiry hair that was in that. Actually, just gonna leave that here. Oh my gosh, I'm just gonna pretend that didn't happen. And, okay, maybe I'm not gonna buy macro beans anymore. or products. That is so gross. Okay, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, so I'm just going to put my spices in now. Okay, here is my garlic powder that I'm subbing in. Following the exact same recipe, and I've used this pan before, and I've still got to add all of the tomato in, the olives and the eggplant. Oh, I swear it was this pan, yeah. Okay, I'm not going to be able to put as much eggplant in. Might mix that in the end. It's under what I need, which is good because I don't want to be going over here. Okay, the olives make this. Here I am putting extra in. The olives make this dish. I'm going to make this work. And I'm thinking if I put it in the middle, like pile it up in the middle, it won't overfill. Stick around to see how this works. Okay. Jimmy's fast asleep. It's so odd that he's not begging for food. He's fine. He's just knackered. Lola had a pretty hard night last night, so he was up with me, being a good babysitter with me, making sure I'm okay while I'm looking after Lola. He's just a sweetheart. He really is. Just, I don't know what I did to deserve Jimmy. That's also why I love Recipe Tin Eats. Her golden retriever Dozer is the light of her life. He features in every cookbook. I just bought her new cookbook tonight, and in the first page it's like this cookbook is written for Dozer, like not for Dozer, but you know what I mean. What's the word when an author goes, this is, I don't know, but I would look if my hands weren't dirty. But she just loves, and she is doing book signings around Australia. And I believe it was the Sydney and Melbourne book signings. Dozer was with her. Oh, the Brisbane one's coming up soon, which I'm contemplating going to. If Lola's having a good day, I'll take Lola, and problem is we'll probably have to line up, and it's just hard with the, I was about to say newborn, we're not a newborn anymore, with a 5-6 month old. Okay, yum. This is going to take forever to cook, but we'll chuck it in the oven the minute we get back from our walk, so we can get this cooked before, and it can cool down then before making the bread. I'm going to drizzle it with a little bit of more olive oil, just because. And then, oh my gosh, look at that. How healthy can you get? And this is just the most delicious Mediterranean meal. It's so hearty with the olives, tomatoes. It's just got everything. It's so good, So yummy with bread, so good for lunches, and it makes such a big batch. Like this is to feed 5 and 6 as a main, 8 to 10 as a side. When I was working before I had Lola, I would make this for dinner at the start of the week and have it for lunch for the rest of the week. I would not get sick of it. It was just so delicious. If you're on the fence about buying Recipe Tin's book, the first one, Dinner, which has this recipe in it, make this your sign to go buy the book, because it's worth it just for this recipe. And I'm just going to leave it like that. There's nothing in here that needs to go in the fridge. So I'm actually going to pop it up here. So this is what dinner ended up looking like after it was cooked. The bread turned out so great. What you need to do is heat up the oven to 230 degrees. Pop your Dutch oven into preheat, which is really important. And then you want to cook the bread in the Dutch oven covered for 20 minutes and then uncovered for 12 minutes. And I'm really happy with how this bread turned out with the bread improver. It's almost as fluffy and airy as it is with bread flour. I think the reason why it wasn't as fluffy as well was because we cut it straight away. Usually with any type of bread, you want it to cool down a little bit before you cut it, but we couldn't wait, so we cut it, and I think we squished it a little bit while we were cutting it, but it turned out so great. It's so nice with some butter, and it pairs really well with dinners like this, any soups or stews, or in this case, this bean and veggie mix. Now for these next two dinners, I'm making a chicken broth for a chicken noodle soup and then also chicken pot pies the next night. I absolutely love these two recipes. They are so easy, so cheap, and it makes so much food. So starting off here, I'm making the base for both of the recipes, which is the chicken broth. So in the big pot, I pop some carrots, onion, garlic, some celery, bay leaves and thyme, and then I put in a whole chicken. And what I love about this recipe is that you get so much chicken broth that you don't need for the chicken noodle soup and for the chicken pot pies. Here I am just taking out the broth that I need for the chicken noodle soup and putting it aside. And then you'll see me actually use breast milk storage bags to store 1 cup of broth. So portion it out for the freezer. The reason why I'm doing this is I bought a huge packet of breast milk bags from Temu when I was like early on in my pregnancy because they were so cheap. Then I decided against using like a Temu product for breast milk for my daughter, but I didn't want them to go to waste, and I'm happy to use like, you know, plastic that might be a little bit questionable for our own food, but not for her. So I'm happy to use them, and I've put them to use. This is like the 4th time I've done this with these bags, and it's perfect. It stores really well. It holds the perfect amount for a cup of broth. So I'm just individually packing them up. I think I got over 2 litres of chicken broth from this recipe that I've popped in the freezer. Now, once I've finished this, you'll see me strain out the vegetables from the broth. Now, make sure, if you're following along, sorry if you can hear my daughter, make sure you keep these vegetables because they are perfect for the chicken pot pies that I'm going to make tomorrow night. So keep the veggies, pop them in the fridge, and then you'll see me I'll clean out the pot so it's nice and clean to cook up some fresh, some fresh carrot, onion. I think I put a little bit of garlic in for the soup. So once the vegetables have sautéed, you add in the stock for the chicken noodle soup, and you also want to add in some chicken stock cubes, just to add some extra flavour before adding in your pasta to cook and then the chicken. The pasta that I use, I really like for recipes like this because it's like little nests of dried egg pasta, so it sits really nicely in the pot to cook evenly. And then that's dinner done. I've also added a little bit more thyme and some chili in and some salt and pepper. But this is such a... Oh, and yeah, I didn't have fresh garlic, so I put garlic powder in. Sorry if you can hear my daughter. She's having a chat with me. Now, I love this recipe because it makes so much. It's so cheap. I'll calculate at the end how much these 2 dinners cost me in total, the chicken noodle soup and the chicken pot pies, because if anyone out there is on a really strict budget, these are family-friendly meals. They're really healthy. There's so much nutrients in that chicken broth. And this chicken noodle soup fed Ben and I for dinner and lunch for 3 days. And then the chicken pot pies were the same, fed Ben and I for dinner and then for lunch for 3 days. So a really great budget dinner. So here I am the next day, about to make these chicken pot pies. So I'm just removing some of the leafy bits of the celery. You could keep it in. I'm not a huge celery fan, so I've removed them. Left the rest of the celery in there, and then I'm going to chop up. So these are the vegetables from the stock that I made yesterday. I'm going to chop it up really nice and thinly, and this is going to be the vegetables for the chicken pot pie. Now, I don't know why Recipe Tin Eats doesn't suggest to keep the vegetables for this pie, because she suggests to make the pie but doesn't mention anything about keeping the vegetables. I don't know why, because these vegetables make the perfect vegetables for a pie, because they're nice and soft and they're super flavorful after sitting and cooking in the broth. So to make these chicken pot pies, the filling, you need to heat up your vegetables. I like to do that in some butter just to add extra creaminess to the dish. And then you pop in chicken stock cubes. Like, I'm not sure why Recipe Tin Eats suggests to do this, because there's already so much flavour. But I follow her instructions because she never leads me astray. And then the flour, which you mix together and cook for a little bit in with the veggies, because this will act as a thickener for the filling. So once you have added the flour, you then need to add your chicken stock and milk, and then finally your chicken to warm through, and then let it cook down to your desired thickness before adding it to puff pastry in your pie tins. Now, I skipped a step here that I usually do. I usually pre-cook the pastry before adding in the filling. I just couldn't be bothered on this night, and it did not make a difference. I just went ahead with putting the mixture into the pastry without pre-cooking, and the pastry was not soggy, and it turned out perfect. So I'm glad I took the risk and did that, because it saved me a little bit of time. Once you have put the top of the pastry on, you want to make sure you put an air hole in the top so that this steam can escape while it's cooking, and then brush it with an egg wash so that the pies are nice and golden. Don't mind me using my fingers. I threw out the last brush that we had because I just felt like I couldn't clean it properly, so I'll be buying a silicone one down the track. And this is how the pies turn out. They are so yummy. Definitely one of my go-to recipes. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.